I have been asked over and over actually to start talking about how do we educate our kids sexually? How do we do sex education? Talk about sex education for kids. So all of a sudden today, I thought today might be a good day. I've got 7, 5, 3, and 1. So you are right in the heart of it. Thanks, Nikki, for inviting followers. Please, please invite followers so we can start this series and everybody gets included. I'm so excited for this. I'm so glad, Tiffany. I'm so glad you are. And I just feel like I've been a little remiss of not doing this already. Your kids are 6 and 9, great ages, really important ages with regards to this topic. Thanks for the hearts. I am fast on my way to 100,000 hearts, guys. You've got 10 and 6, Daniel. Great. So we've got parents here, parents of kids through all ages from 1 to 10. Anybody have any teens? Were there anybody who had teens? Thank you. We're getting some good followers here. If you aren't following me already, tap the little Perry-do down there so that you can continue to be notified when I come on Scope, which is a couple of times a week. Really about 2 times a week, and then the Amazing Intimacy show on Sundays with my hubby Doug. We just did that Sunday. Thank you, Tiffany, for inviting followers. Thanks for the green hearts. I'm going to get that 100,000 hearts. I know, Chris, you got a full house. Oh my gosh, 26, 23, 19, 9, 7, and 9 months. What? I didn't even know about the 9-month-old, Christy. What? Wow. Okay, you guys are busy, busy parents. My gosh. So thank you for, I did not know about the 9-month-old. Wow. So thank you for inviting followers. For those of you who don't know who I am, and that may be the case here, my name is Leslie Gustafson. I am a women's marriage and sex therapist. I have been in practice for over 25 years. I am licensed in the state of California and Colorado. I coach couples and women nationwide. Oh, surprise baby for Christy. What else? I'm also the marriage and sex therapist here for Fox Denver, Colorado. I do the Amazing Intimacy show with my husband Doug, who is a therapist of 37 years. And we wrote the book Amazing Intimacy, Create a Spectacular Marriage in and Out of the Bedroom. And I do other things too, but enough of that. So I come to you today with a hot topic, which is how do we educate our children? And I'm going to start with a question. So you ready for a question? I'm crazy busy, Christy. Life is full. Life is full, and I'm trying to give and do all I can at this stage of my life. I'm on a mission to help you create amazing intimacy in your lives, in your marriages, relationships, and for those who want with God. So that's what I do, and I try to do it everywhere I can. Thank you for the hearts. So let me ask a question. Are you ready for a question? Give me a thumbs up. Thanks, Danielle. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready for a question. It's a personal question. It's a question that I have asked on Facebook. I had a survey a few months ago. You ready for a question? Ready for a question? Very, very cool. Thanks for the thumbs up, because I'm going to ask you a really important question, and then I'm going to tell you what I've learned about the question. The question is this. Yep, you're ready. How many of you were raised in homes where your parents gave you a thorough sex education all the way through childhood until you were out of the home? How many of you had that thorough sex education from your parents through all stages of the life cycle, all the way through childhood? It was a part of your growing up. Nope. Anyone? Nope. You did. Yay, that was a yay. That was a yay, yes. Had thorough sex education from your parents. And by thorough, I mean they talked to you consistently about it. You didn't have one sex talk from one of your parents or a couple of your parents. I'm not talking about one sex talk. My dad wanted to have the talk 3 minutes before I got married. Yes, that is classic, Daniel, and not at all uncommon. I hear that a lot in my office, right when you're about to get married, as if you don't know anything already, right? They're going to clue you in. Yep, and I still do. So you're 24 and you have parents who have been really helpful with you. That is really cool. I'll have to tell you, it's also very, very rare. When I took a survey of about 35 people on Facebook not too long ago, 1% could say, yes, that happened for me. And I asked that question, and I asked that question to you today because I hear it. Oh, your mom used to teach sex ed. Well, there you go. There's the rare situation. Yeah. That resonated with what I have heard over and over in my office for 25 years, that there was not adequate sex education in the home. There might have been one talk, a reading of a book, or there was a school program of some sort. In my day, it was the movie in fifth grade that you go watch and you learn about menstruation and you sort of learn about intercourse, but it's all a little like out of context and sort of daunting because you're not really sure what it's all about. That was my experience. I know that it's been others. I do not come from a background where I had thorough sex education, and it was ultimately a detriment because I ended up being very sexually naive and didn't know a thing about it. My mom sat down with me when I was about 8 or 10 years old, I can't remember, bless her heart, and read literally a book about the birds and the bees. And that was my sex education. So it's no surprise really when I tell you that, right, that I do what I do. And it's super important that that happen in homes now. I talked a little bit about this in the previous scope, because the culture that we live in now sexually is way different even from 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And do you know why that is? Why, guys? Why is the culture so different? Yay for the pink hearts. Thank you very much. Technology. Yes, technology. Technology has propelled availability of sexual content to a really dramatic, a dramatic effect, right? It's everywhere. Sexuality is everywhere. It's accessible, it's available, and when we're online, it's actually anonymous, which ends up being a little bit dangerous. 1 in 4 women or children will be sexually abused. That's a statistic. The most common, the average age for first viewing of porn for a child is 7 years old. We know now that sex trafficking is rampant. I mean, I'm not saying all this to create fear or paranoia. I say it to encourage awareness and empowerment in this area of our lives. My biggest passion is to sexually empower other people, okay? Whether that be individually or in marriages, but being able to be educated, know about sex, and live out really healthy, beautiful sexual lives together. Yeah? So this is the deepest heart of my heart. I recently wrote a blog, this is how strongly I feel about it. Knowledge brings responsibility, absolutely. I recently wrote a blog that can be found at Authentic and True, our website, called Sexual Empowerment and Education in an Age of Sexual Objectification and Ignorance. I know. I wrote that and I feel strongly about the topic. We live in a unique age right now where sex abounds, and yet knowledge, education, and wisdom about sexuality is not forthcoming. It's really hard to get good sex ed. If our parents aren't doing it in the home, if we aren't educating our children, then who is going to? Technology, media, peers, or school, to some degree school, maybe if they have a class. So, yay, that's why I'm doing this today. Okay? It's so hard to find good research for myself or my kids. Yikes. I know, Christy. Yes, it is hard to find good resources. But here's my first challenge to you. Okay, here's my first point. Sex education for our kids needs to begin with you. Okay? It needs to begin with you. You need to know about sexual things. Yes? You need to have education yourself. You need to be empowered in this arena. Who feels sexually empowered and like they're a great sex educator? Who feels like they are already? Hi, Samia. Welcome. Anyone? Anyone feel like they're ready to go and they are ready to do it? Yeah, I know. Most people don't feel equipped. So, when I say it begins with you, my first question is this. Do you feel capable of talking out loud about sexual things? Comfortable and no. Do you feel capable? Do you feel competent? No. Yes, Tiffany, you do. Awesome. Excellent. Yes. Not really, from Samia. Yeah. How many people have done that? There's a learning curve there. A little bit. Yes, from the daughter of the sex educator. Okay. Right. The first thing we need to do is get comfortable with talking about sexual things. If I don't, other people will get there first. Of course they will, Tiffany. Education is going to happen. We all end up learning about sex somehow, some way, right? We want to be proactive and preventative, right? We don't want to have it be reactive and learn in unhealthy ways. So the most important tip that I have for you today, I told you in my previous scope that my most important tip is this. Sex education, the most important thing is that you are comfortable talking about it. Most important thing, right? So that's where the learning curve is. Getting comfortable talking about sexual things proceeds being able to educate your children, because you want to be able to educate your children from birth till forever. You want to be able to have an open dialogue with your kids about all things, right? Because you are their primary educator, teacher, guide. You're their parent. And so getting comfortable talking about sex is the most important thing you can do when it comes to sex education and your children. So just by showing up today, you're saying, I'm interested. I want to learn how. Tiffany says, I sometimes wonder what is age appropriate. Do you answer all the questions at all ages honestly? We're going to get into the specifics of how to. But the first thing is you need to get comfortable, okay? I would encourage you to get some kind of book. And here's kind of a barometer. If you're openly talking to your partner or your husband or your wife, and you are freely able to talk about sexual things with them, that's probably a good barometer about your comfort level in general with the topic. So I think that's a really good place to start, is to start learning how to talk with each other out loud about sexual things. Sometimes couples can't do that at all. Reading a book out loud that has sexual terms gets you talking about all things sexual together, can help kind of get you more and more comfortable. Because why is comfort so important? If you feel afraid, if you feel ashamed, if you feel uncomfortable having discussions about sex with your children, guess what they receive? The content, yes, but mostly the nonverbals. How you feel about it is what's going to be most transmitted to your children. If it feels taboo to you, it feels like you're talking about a nasty topic, if you feel ashamed talking about sexual things, they're going to feel like something is wrong when you talk about sex. Something about the topic isn't okay. So that's why it's so important, because they will pick up your comfort level about it. If you think it's awesome If you feel educated and empowered about it, and you feel excited to be able to help them grow sexually as sexual beings, grow into understanding about relationships, then that's what you transmit. An excitement and an encouragement and a comfort level. It is a sex positive approach because sex is good. Sex is amazing. Sex is a gift from God, and that's what you want to be transmitting to them. Yeah? Anyone there still, or have I drove y'all out? So that's the number one tip, is that you need to be comfortable, because when you're comfortable talking about sex, you're going to transmit comfort to your children. Okay? Yes? Questions so far about that? How to get comfortable? Yay, Nikki likes it. Any questions, other ideas that you need for how to get comfortable talking about things that are sexual? Being able to say penis, being able to say vagina, being able to talk about intercourse. The issue is what type of information you transmit, so you and them are comfortable. Good point, Samya. Nothing forces you to grow as much as learning to parent well. Nothing grows you more. That's certainly been my experience. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm not sure who's raised who ultimately, right? Our kids train us and grow us and help us become more because of how they challenge us. Okay? Yes, and so I hear concerns about the timing. Here's my second question, okay? Because before we get into what to say and when to say it to your children, you need to know as parents, this is my second point, okay? What is your end goal for your child? What is your end goal for your child as a sexual person, as a relational person? What do you want for your child? Are you okay with them sexually exploring in their teen years? Are you not? Do you want them ultimately to get married and have an awesome sex relationship with their spouse? So you need to be asking questions like this. What are my values? What do I believe? What do I want to raise my child up into? What am I shooting for here? Are you shooting for a kid or a child who knows about sexual things, who can make wise choices around relationships and sexuality? Are you trying to help your child wait till marriage? There's certainly that culture. Are you okay with the kinds of conversations that you need to be having, because you want to know what is the end goal that you have for your child when it comes to sexuality? Okay? Everyone with me? Yes? Because we don't want to be reactive. We don't want this to blindly be unfolding. We don't want to leave our kids without knowledge. We don't want them leave them not equipped, right? We don't want things happening to them that they are not ready to deal with, or they don't understand. Knowledge is power when it comes to most things, and certainly in this arena. Yay for the thumbs up. Cool. So talking about the end goal, what you're shooting for your kids. Okay? So we've talked about how it starts with you, right? You need to become sexually empowered, educated, comfortable, most importantly, comfortable talking about sexual things. And sometimes it's just about putting the words out. I remember in graduate school, I had my first human sexuality class, and they just getting the words out. Everyone was so uncomfortable. We're graduate students, and people couldn't say penis and vagina without giggling. I mean, really, it's a real thing, getting comfortable. So that's my first, we got to start with you. You got to get comfortable, and you got to know what you're shooting for. Who do you want your child to grow into sexually and relationally? Okay? Are y'all with me? Any questions at this point? Any questions? We will talk about, we're going to talk, I've got a few more minutes, and we will talk about I do have resources, but we're going to take this in segments, Tiffany, and today we're going to talk a little bit about what you want to be doing from birth to about age 3 or 4. Okay, what is sex education from birth to age 3 or 4? Really? It almost sounds like, really? Sex education starts that early? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When you have a baby, right? There are going to be times when you, just in that early nurturing time, have tender moments with your child, and you're going to be theoretically loving on them with words, yes, affirmations about how beautiful they are, their perfectly formed bodies, yes. You're going to be talking out loud about, really, those are sexual things, bodies. You have a beautiful body. You have great toes. You have great. You have. I love your little chubby legs. I mean, we do all of that, right? And so you want to kind of have that kind of open dialogue really early, okay? When a child starts to become verbal, what I really think is cool and a great way to start talking about sexuality is you want to start telling the story to your little one, the story of them, right? Loosely, there's a great book called The Story of Me by Brennan and Stan Jones, because you're going to talk about how they came into the world, and it's really age appropriate, but you want to start lifting them up as their own person, talking about their wonderful design, how they're created. There's the wonderful scripture, I think it's in Psalms, about, God knew us before when we were in our womb. That's a great scripture to bring up. If someone asks about womb, you tell them what a womb is. Just practically and straightforward. The story of me. I believe it's called The Story of Me. Okay? And when a child starts to get verbal enough and you're maybe bathing, you start naming body parts, right? Right. You call a penis, a vagina. You don't have to say, while they are private parts, you giving slang, little funny words for it, tells a child that there's something different about this body part that doesn't have an okayness. So you want to use the anatomically correct words, right? You don't call an elbow that little pokey thing, right? We call it an elbow. And so when you're comfortable using the names, just in the day-to-days, bath time, or if there's a question about what is that? What is that? Sometimes if you have older children, somebody else will bring it up too, right? And so you want to use the words just as a matter of, of course. Because in those early stages, they're learning about self. They're starting to grow into their own self. And so much of that is about their bodies and who they are and their parts, okay? Then, at some point before age 3 or 4, the preschool years, there needs to be a talk about safe touch. Who's allowed to touch you? Who isn't allowed to touch you? Who's allowed to touch you where and why? Okay? Right? You with me? A lot of times doctors will do this. Okay, you might have a physician who does this little safe touch talk, but you want to be the safe touch talker. You want to be the one who says, only your doctor can touch your private parts. Okay, we can use the word then, right? Because while we have all these different body parts and we know their names, some of them are yours and they are private, and you get to decide who touches them or doesn't touch them, right? And so your physician can touch them, or mommy and daddy when we are in bath time. But nobody else gets to touch your private parts. Consent is also very important and should not be skipped over. Consent, yes, exactly. That's the bigger word for it. That's the mature word for it, because consent, we always get to have consent. Oh, thank you. Bless my heart. Bless your heart for being here. Okay, so those are kind of the simple things that sort of happen from birth to 3. 3 or 4, because if you're going to start launching into play dates, being around other children, or going to preschool, you want them to be equipped already with the safe touch talk. You also want them to be empowered because they know all of their body parts and they are good. Yeah? I also like the idea, I told you about the book, The Story of Me by Brennan and Stan Jones. That's for this age range. But I think it's really special when a parent can even have their own version, right? You can kind of tell your child the story of how they came into the world. Very personal. My mom said that, but I don't remember ever talking to me about what does and doesn't count. What does and doesn't count. What's allowed, what's not allowed as consent. Okay, you didn't know until college. Yeah. And as we travel through the different developmental stages, we'll kind of talk about what is necessary in that stage. Right now we're talking from birth to 4, but consent, yeah. And here's the thing. When you're comfortable and you are already in these early stages, developing a relationship with your child that's open, you're essentially in a global way saying, you can come to me with anything. We can talk about anything. And that's the foundation that you want to be setting all the way through their development, because you want to have a relationship that allows for that. So if you're not going to be able to allow for a lot of conversations that you'll have later that are a lot more trying, particularly in the teen years. Okay, so you with me? Okay, so it starts with you getting empowered sexually and getting educated. It starts with getting comfortable talking about sexual things. You can start by reading aloud. You can talk openly with your partner. I hope you do. I think that's a critical part of every marriage, to be able to talk openly about sexual things. And then, what are you shooting for? Who you're trying to raise your child up into? What's the end goal for them relationally and sexually? What do you want for them? Hey, Nelson, welcome. Or Pete. I never know if it's Pete or Nelson. Take lots of maca kids at Nature's Viagra. Huh. Anyway, any questions or whatever, feedback, concerns about what I said? Yeah, what? Because I'm going to need to wrap up here because I'm going into a session with a client in about 1 minute. So thanks for joining. This is the first of a series. Today we talked from birth to age 3 to 4. We will move beyond that next week. I think next week for a disabled 15-year-old. Okay, thank you for doing this, of course. Yeah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about sex education for our children today. My 7 and 9-year boys get so goofy. How do we get them past that? Save it for next time. They do get goofy, but that's okay. If they're talking out loud, it's okay. Yeah, they do get goofy. Yeah, thanks. So that's it for today, guys. I got to wrap it up, and gonna have to block that one. Okay. So I'll catch the replay. Please do catch the replay. And you guys, I wanted to say this before I got off. When is the next session? It will no doubt be next week. I also do an Ask the Therapist scope. That'll probably be in the next couple days, my Ask the Therapist scope, where you can ask anything you want. Thanks for being here, Christy. Always so good to see you and that smiling face. I do Ask the Therapist, but I'll probably do the second of this series next week. Also, if you ever have any questions that you would like to ask me anonymously, you are welcome to do that at Twitter at Leslie Gustafson or at Authentic True. Some people don't like to ask questions online. I appreciate that, but I will be able to answer them then anonymously for you. That's what I'm here for, to help you become sexually empowered and great sex educators for your children, and to help you create amazing intimacy in your lives, marriages, and if you want, with God. So Leslie Gustafson signing off for now. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm glad I hit a nerve with the topic, and that this is what you were wanted. So very cool. I will see you soon. Have a great rest of the day. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.